All right, so welcome everyone to our third and final class to Getting Out of the Box, Birthing My Next Me. And thank you all for being on this journey with me. I think I can officially say that we are all out of the box. It might not be that we took ourselves out, but I think Pele has done it for us. And so I proclaim that we are all out of the box. So with that said, I'd love to lead us in a little bit of grounding and meditation right now, just to kind of set the tone for our class today. And I just want to acknowledge that Carol and Sandra are here live, and I'm glad to have you. And I know that the 7 other women will be enjoying this by recording, so we welcome you all into the circle today. Yeah. So I'd like to invite you just to kind of get into your body, slow down, maybe even close your eyes. And if you like, you can put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. And this is just a chance to connect inward. Connect, letting go of the outside distraction, the chatter from the mind. Just giving yourself permission to slow down, to go inward, and maybe even saying your name right now, silently or out loud, just calling forth your being, your presence. Saying it maybe 3 times, just to activate your consciousness. And so I'm just going to invite you to feel the roots going down into the ground, feeling your connection to Mother Earth right now. Just feeling that energy, imagining yourself like you're a tree planting the roots down. Feeling it going down from the bottom of your spine into the earth. And feeling that energy below, feeling your connection to self-love, feeling your roots deep, and allowing that self-love to come up through your feet into your body, just permeating your whole being, and allowing your spine to elongate. Feeling your top expanding, feeling the connection going upward to the divine or the God of your understanding. Feeling that expansion, that love. Calling it forth, bringing it down into our being. Feeling our connection to the divine love that we can tap into at any moment. And feeling it in your body, bringing it into your heart and your belly. We invite any of our beloved teachers and guides and angel spirit friends into our session today for guidance, for love, for wisdom, for transformation. And just taking a moment to give gratitude for being here, being alive, for showing up, giving gratitude for your breath, giving gratitude for your presence. And let's take a few conscious breaths together, 3 conscious inhales and exhales. And just on this first inhale and exhale, you can release the past, just all that's come before this call, all that's happened in the last day, the last week. Just breathing in and breathing out the past. Oh. And on this next conscious inhale and exhale, just thinking about all that's going to happen, or releasing all that's going to happen after this call later today, next week, next month, just allowing it all to go as you breathe in and breathe out. And let's take a third inhale and exhale together, breathing in and breathing out into the present moment, where we join each other. And you can slowly open your eyes. I'm going to read just a very short reading by Rupi Kaur. And it says, "It was when I stopped searching for home within others and lifted the foundations of home within myself, I found there were no roots more intimate than those between my mind and body that have decided to be whole." Yeah, so I invite you to, just got some bird action in the background there.
Peacocks.
Peacocks, all right. Okay, so yeah, I love that reading about home. It seems so pertinent to some of us, to many of us who have been displaced. And I've always said that home is inside, but sometimes it's hard to actually experience that and feel that. So I love that reading, because it reminds me that I can connect to my roots and feel that inside. So what I want to do right now is just have a little bit of a check-in. And so the way this is going to go is I'm going to invite you all to reflect on 3 different questions. And I think because I have 2 people live, I'll let you two answer these here for the group. And then if you're listening to the recording, what you can do is just take time to pause and answer the questions, and maybe just journal for yourself. And I should mention, it would be good to have paper and pen to kind of journal. And I did send out 3 handouts that might be good to pull up, but if you don't have time to pull them up, that's okay. You can get it afterwards. I can kind of instruct you through the handouts, even if you don't have it. But it would be good to have paper and pen. And so this reflection kind of check-in, I just wanted to give us each an opportunity to kind of pause and see where we've all been on this journey together. And so just to remind you, in the first class, we were really focusing on self-love. We were focusing on the branches of self-love and our just the path of self-love, and how we have that relationship and that choice and those practices. And then in the second class, we were focusing on divine love, on our connection to mother love, and also focusing on opening our seventh chakra to that divineness. And so what I wanted to do before we go into the teaching, into the third type of love that we're going to talk about in the Trinity of Love, is just have a little reflection. So the first question is, call this Reflections and Wisdom. And I just want to invite you to notice what you're learning right now, what you're aware of as a result of your daily practices, as a result of strengthening your self-love branch and the work that we've done together, either individually. So I just want you to take a moment to see if there's any reflections that you have for yourself in terms of the practices that you've been doing, and specifically on strengthening your self-love. So I'm going to give you a moment just to check in with that, any reflections and wisdom that you have about that. That's the first kind of check-in. And then when either of you are ready to share, Sandra or Carol, then you can. And yeah, just whatever comes up for you in terms of what reflection or wisdom, and that'd be great.
I'll say something.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, well, you know, I haven't had as much time in this situation. But what I realized when I started is that I really, really need them. And, you know, even though I would say that my level of self-love might be better than the average person, you know, I'm getting in touch with how much more, many deeper level layers there are. And in particular, since what's happened with the eruptions, I've had more kind of self-criticism come up, actually. So that's been interesting to observe. Because some of my challenges come up. So that I felt some more negativity toward myself.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Hey.
Okay.
How's it going?
Anything in it?
No, but I need to go to the office to get yeah.
Sounds like somebody.
I was going to go to the playground, let him play for a little bit first.
Sandra, let me just see who this
And
is.
then do that.
That's strange.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello? Is somebody joining us?
Yeah.
808.
Aloha, this is Jade.
Oh, hi, Jade.
Jade.
Hi, everyone.
Hi there. Okay, great. So Jade, yeah, we started about 15 minutes ago. We just did a meditation, and we're just doing a short little check-in. So I'm gonna kind of continue on, and you can listen to the recording here. And right now what we're doing is we're just checking in on just what you're learning, what you're aware of as a result of your daily practices, or focusing on self-love, or whatever is really coming up for you. I'm just going to ask a few different questions. And Sandra just shared, and I wanted to just respond, Sandra, that makes makes sense that that you would have negative self-talk come up at this time, and that you're becoming more aware of it. So I want to acknowledge you and your awareness. And I know it doesn't always feel good, but I think you're. I know I have the same going on, so I can very much identify.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Carol, would you like to share in relationship to that? Whoops, we're not hearing you. No. Your audio is not on. Now you're muted. Okay. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Maybe your volume? Shucks, we can't hear you. I guess we can't hear you, no. I guess what you could do is you could write into the chat, because your volume, your audio is not going. Oh, and it looks like somebody else might be joining too. Okay, Carol. Somebody on an iPhone?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. That's good. And
That's
it looks
weird.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'll just go ahead now then. I was really struck by the poem that you just read about about home, and home is inside, and that is something I really came a lot more a lot closer to getting that, particularly last night, and it's just like opening. It's an opening where home is. This is where I need to focus, and is inside, yeah. And it just, I feel, yesterday I was so depressed, I could hardly talk. And today I feel renewed, at like a whole shield has been lifted. So part of it is from this, and I really appreciated that poem. That worked for me.
Great, thank you. So Jade, I now see you visually. Are you still, it looks like maybe you're on twice. There's the phone and then there's the visual. Is that how you need to do it? I can't hear you. You're not.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have to be on twice so that you can hear me.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Would you like to say anything about, I'm going to be, would you like to just kind of check in with any reflections or wisdom that's coming up for you right now in this moment?
First of all, I just want to say it's really nice to see people's faces and be on this, feel your energy, Shakti, and to be on this. And I'm actually sitting in my car outside the Pahoa community center evacuation site right now. So I'm still busy evacuating stuff and running around with my child and belongings all in my car.
Wow.
But yeah, it's crazy. But anyway,
I'm so sorry.
I was kind of on adrenaline and frustrated and upset for the first 10 days, and then Mother's Day happened and I started feeling all this community and self-love and self-care and just a lot of love from everyone. So I'm feeling much better now, and I'm just trying to focus on I'm still focusing on survival stuff right now, but regardless, it's just nice to feel everyone's energy.
Right on. Well, bless you, and thank you for, being able to come here. And I realize, that I don't know if you'll be able to stay for the whole call, but it will be recorded, and we're so happy to have you with us.
Okay.
Okay, great. So just another question for reflection. I'm just curious if you're noticing any shifts and successes happening. And we're going to get to the challenges too, but just for a moment, Jade kind of acknowledged some shifts that she's experiencing, but a good way to think about this, just to check in with yourself, is to kind of think about it kind of like pies, like what shifts and successes are you experiencing physically, emotionally, and maybe it could be intellectually or maybe relationally, and spiritually. So just taking a pause right now to check in with yourself, to kind of notice the journey you've been on, notice the shift that is the shifts that are occurring, and just see if you want to journal or write down any of those specific shifts or successes that you're experiencing on all these levels: physical, spiritual, emotional, relational, or intellectual. And then if something comes up that you'd like to share, feel free to share it, but it's really just meant for a pause, a time for you to reflect. Sometimes we forget to acknowledge our successes and our shifts. Yeah, so again, popcorn style, if anyone would like to just jump in and share any of their shifts that they're noticing.
I noticed that physically, I noticed that I am really feeling a lot healthier in my body, and I've become more active and respectful of my body, as I'm sleeping well. I quit smoking pot, and I feel more in touch.
Great. Aho.
Mm-hmm.
I notice when I do the tapping along with the Shakti's videos that I feel joyful and blissful.
Great. Good to know that you've been using the tap-alongs. That's awesome.
Love them.
Right on. And I guess for me, one of the things I'm noticing, physically I go in and out of, being aware of fear and tension. And what I'm really, really noticing is that my day flows so much better when I start my day with practices with self-love. If I start with meditation and my appreciations and yoga, then I can handle whatever comes my way, because it's so helpful. So I'm just really personally finding the value of my morning practice. Probably for 5-6 days, I could not do anything, so I'm just really thankful for that. And I'm also noticing a shift. I'm just really having to focus on the now, to be more in the moment. So that's kind of a cool shift. I'm appreciating the now, because there's so much change going on. Yeah, so Jade just says that she's with her son and she needs to go take care of some things. So she thanks all of us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
okay.
What'd you say, Sandra?
Oh, just, okay.
Okay, I did.
Okay.
I'm not hearing you, but I'm going to move on to the third reflection point. So I just want to hear from you, and this is a good point for everybody to journal on too, just noticing what stretches and stresses and struggles or stuck points are you still aware of? So what is feeling hard or challenging or like it's just stuck? And so this is just like a good opportunity to presence what feels stuck. Yeah, and so if there's anything you want to acknowledge out loud in relationship to what's feeling stuck. I know, Sandra, you talked about some negative self-talk before. Anything else either of you want to presence?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, for me it's like the what feels stuck is these negative feelings about being sensitive and having limitations. And it's actually like coming up as self-hatred. And in an emergency like this, when you have limitations, it makes things harder. And also like bad feelings about my body, about my weight.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you again for presencing that and being aware of it. And I really do believe that in healing anything, the first thing we have to do is be aware and acknowledging it. So it's really brave and courageous for you just to acknowledge that out loud. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
Carol, anything you want to share about stretches or stresses or struggles or stuck points?
Well, I'm not feeling stuck right now, but yesterday was like kind of a rock bottom for me, and feeling like kind of, I was scared, I guess, and like my world would break open, and I would be like alone, or what's the word? More like I felt like clinging onto Tom, kind of thing, and so, and it, of course, that creates resistance, and we just had a real frank blow up last night, and everything lifted, and it just feels so, I don't feel that stuckness anymore. It's just like, wow, I don't have to feel that way. I can be open and honest and free with my feelings and thoughts, and it's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. So I feel unstuck right now. And I guess the more I get there, the more it will become a habit of just freeing myself from those stuck places that can literally, I mean, it feels like I'm suffocating, killing myself with these thoughts of fear thoughts. Yeah. But acknowledging them was the access to letting go.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, that sounds like you went through, you faced the fear, you acknowledged it, you felt it, you experienced it, and it kind of allowed you to move through. That's beautiful.
Yeah, to be open again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels good.
And what's coming up for me when I think about the struggles and the stress that I had, I have to say, for me, it really got physical when it came down to me being at home and our making the decision to leave our house and pack up things. I mean, I had a week to pack up things, but the thing that threw me over it was my body. I got hemorrhoids in my body, so it made me so uncomfortable at home that it was like my body was saying, it was kind of crazy, the metaphor of having this physical sensation in my body as Pele is like, erupting and the cracks are going. I'm having this like real physical discomfort in my body. And it was funny because I pulled an angel card one morning and it said, time to go. Time to go. And I pulled it on Monday, and then the next day was when the hemorrhoid came, and that was the day we had planned to evacuate. And then I looked it up on Louise Hay, and it said that hemorrhoids are all about deadlines. And that was exactly what I had, because I had this like window that I had to pack up things and get out. And anyway, so it was, I had a real physical, kind of sensation in my body. And now that I'm out of that environment and I'm, more peaceful, it's definitely, it's waned. But that was one of my challenges. Yeah, so I want to just give us an opportunity right now to shift gears. I'm going to just invite us to take that star mantra. You might have seen it on one of my tapping sheets, and I just want to kind of use it right now. And you can just say it either as a affirmation, or you can tap it. So the star mantra stands for surrender, trust, accept, and receive. And so I'm just going to invite you to say that with me, and I'm going to tap it. And I think it's just a good way to kind of transition to what we're going to do next. So I invite you to either tap along with me or just to say it out loud. So I surrender. I trust.
I trust.
I accept.
I accept.
I receive.
I receive.
I surrender. I trust. I accept.
I accept.
And I receive.
I receive.
And one more time. I surrender.
I surrender.
I trust.
I trust.
I accept.
I accept.
I receive.
I receive.
I surrender. I trust. I accept. And I receive. Okay, so I just wanted to do that, like I said, as a transition. So in this course, I have brought up this idea of the Trinity of Love, which we have focused on really connecting ourselves to self-love, to expanding our branches of self-love, connecting to divine love. And today we're going to talk about the cross, where our arms go out, the other aspect of love, which is other love. And so other love is about our relationships, whether it's a significant other or our family members or our cats and our dogs. It's our relationship to nature and to trees and to plants. It's our it's all about relationships. And in my own journey, if you remember my story about really delving into self-love after I'd left my community for 9 months, I was just focused on my spiritual practices, on really building up my self-love tree and connecting. So first I was really growing and developing that self-love at the same time as I was expanding and connecting to the divine. And then after having a real solid foundation with my self-love and my divine, that's when just naturally inside of me, I felt like I wanted to share it with others. And that's where I had my kind of moment of, you know, feeling overflowing with joy that I wanted to expand it. And that's where I, you know, had this conversation with God that I'm ready to share this with somebody. And that's when Lauren showed up the next day. So that's what we're talking about, that other love, whether it's a significant one, or even just we're going to focus on friendships. So we're going to be using two different tools to discover this. And I'm just going to mention what those tools are. They're called the relationship inventory and also the love rings. But what I'm going to do now is just talk a little bit generally just about our relationships, and then we'll go into those exercises. So if you want to take notes, you can, or if you just want to listen to me, that's great too. So as we grow our relationships, as you grow within yourself and your connection to your self-love and to the divine, your relationships will grow with you. And some of your relationships you're going to grow out of. We never stop growing. You know, we're always growing. And so a really good way to think about relationships is this. So think about relationships like you're walking down a sidewalk. And some people you'll meet early on, and you'll walk together for blocks and maybe even miles. And others will enter your life later, coming through a side street or meeting in a town square. And you two may walk many blocks or a few miles together. And many people will walk a certain distance with you and then turn off onto a different street to follow their own path. And you'll continue on your path without them. And this is not personal or bad, it's just how it works. Not every person and not most people will walk the entire path of your life with you. But you can always count on that as you walk your path and stay true to yourself, that walking down the streets and visiting the towns you're meant to visit, that you'll meet up with others who will join you for a time or sometimes a lifetime. Some people may even join up with you later on your path. And the Lakota tribe has a great ritual. Instead of saying goodbye when they part with the intention of, I will see you when I see you again. Yeah, so I love that metaphor of the sidewalk and walking down the path, and it feels really truthful in my life as I reflect on the friends that I've had and how they've changed. So another point about our relationships is that completing a relationship is not a failure. It's overstaying or having to create disharmony and destruction to leave that is the failure. And I know this was a hard one for me to get when I left my community. I felt like such a failure. When I ended my first marriage, I also felt like a failure. But I realized that that's just conditioning. So there are all kinds of frameworks in our culture that cause people to create the misconception that relationships have to last forever in order for them to be successful. So you can, phrases like it didn't work out. What does that mean? You had a relationship, it gave you something, you learned something, and then it was no longer a fit. Feel the difference of being empowered to talk about what the relationship gave you, what you learned, and the choice to let it go and to continue on. People carry a lot of shame and guilt about relationships completing, and also resentment and anger. it's not the ending that is the failure, but it's the way we ended it that often is. So instead of learning how to let go with love, people act in emotionally immature ways that cause pain and hurt and suffering, mostly because we as a culture are not taught how to let go with love. So we blow up things, we cheat, we lie, we disappear, we create drama, etc. instead. So these are just things that you probably already know, but I think that it's just refreshing to hear this perspective. And another point, if your life is too crowded with misaligned, toxic, or dramatic, or expired relationships, then no relationships can get in, or the ones that are already in your life that could bloom and grow won't have the space and light to do so. So here's another metaphor. You can think about your relationships like a garden. If you have plants that are weeds or evasive, like a toxic or dramatic relationship, they start strangling all the other plants and flowers. And before you know it, you have a garden of weeds and thorny plants. And if you have too many plants in your garden, then there won't be enough water or space for the sunlight to get in to grow, or you'll have to spend lots of resources to take care of them, which ends up exhausting you. Yeah, so just, taking these thoughts in, just noticing what you resonate, what's coming up for you. And I know another truth is that avoiding the truth just prolongs the pain. So the reality is the reality, and you can choose to see it or do something about it, or you can turn the lights off and stay in the dark and wonder why you feel trapped and unhappy. Or you can turn the lights on and see what's happening in the room, and the people or person inside it, decide if you want to stay in the room as it is or sit down with the person and change things if you want to leave it all together. Or if you want to experiment with how and when you enter the room, you can also ask an inquiry. Do you want to stay in pain, or do you want to empower yourself to be happy and free? So these are just some different perspectives, some questions to ponder. As you grow, you'll need relationships that support you to grow, to elevate to higher levels of expression. Living in consciousness, you have to release what weighs you down, support yourself in a ring of love that you can lean into for courage and compassion, and reach up to those that can light the path ahead of you as you stretch. So think of your education and imagine your kindergarten or first grade teacher being the only teacher you had all the way through college or on the job training. They were the only person who could guide you. How much would this allow you to grow? Think of friends that you had in high school or college or in your 20s who you hung out with and had similar interests with. Imagine going back to doing those same things you did then, now, and that's all you ever did, all you talked about. How high could your consciousness grow? Imagine the times in your life when you felt super supported, like you had a circle of friends and family around you, and how that made you feel supported, like you could do anything. And compare that to the times that you felt like you were alone or didn't have the circle of support you needed. What was the difference in how you showed up? Remember the times you've had mentors or teachers that have walked the path before you and how it felt to have someone guiding the way. Imagine being sent off at kindergarten to the 6th grade and told, figure it out yourself. You'd fall into a pile of despair or get lost. So that's why we need teachers and guides and mentors to kind of lead the way. So the energetic connections you maintain with current and previous relationships can either be the wind beneath your wings or the weight that drags you and keeps you down. But we create energetic cords with all the people we interact with on a consistent basis, or those we have created an emotional connection to. These cords are called Aqua Cords by the Hawaiian shamans. Think of these cords like umbilical cords. There is an energetic and emotional exchange going on between you and this other person, or sometimes even groups of people. When this exchange is healthy, the relationship feeds you and the other person is in a symbiotic, harmonious way. When the exchange is unhealthy, it's like injected poison into the umbilical cord, with your mind, body, and heart become unwell and suffer from the toxins. If the exchange is unbalanced, where one person is giving all the time and the other person is taking, you experience the relationship as draining or exhausting or depleting, but you often still give and let the imbalance occur until you hit the point where you get mad and resentful and want to rip the cord from the other person. Often you can feel this in your body. You feel tired after the exchange or out of sorts. You can feel like the other person is sucking off you, feeding off you, being an energy vampire. And the scary but often truth is that we let this happen. We agree to these contracts due to the love cracks in our hearts. And these are draining, imbalanced, dramatic, unhealthy, and exchanges will keep you from living your heart and soul's desires. They're energy drains, and they drain your emotional and spiritual and mental and even material bank accounts. So many women I've seen do not reach her potential in her sacred work or stay stuck in unhealthy imprints because of these cords they're still attached to. But when you unhook the unhealthy cords, it creates a healthy, balanced, supportive life, enriching connections, and you gain the superpower to live your heart and soul's desires. So sometimes it means choosing to forgive someone or releasing someone, and knowing that when you release somebody, it's not necessarily condoning their behavior. It's choosing to see their humanity, finding compassion for their lack that caused them to act as they did, and forgive the person, not the action. It's an act of self-love, or it frees you from the heaviness of connection that mucks up your field, weighs you down, and keeps you reacting from the hurt place inside other relationships. It's a deep process for people that can take years. So I just wanted to kind of give you some things to think about, some different metaphors in terms of relationships before we kind of dive in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a relationship inventory. And so this is going to give you a chance to kind of dive into what relationships you're involved with right now. So if you have the handout, you can pull it out, but I'm going to also just kind of lead you through this process. There's 5 different steps that we're going to go through in this. And so the first step is that you're going to make a list of all of your relationships. And you're going to make sure you're going to just name the person, put it down on one side, and then you're going to write down what the relationship is, whether it's a friend or a relative or a coworker, whatever it is. So you're going to have different columns, and you can use the chart that I have, or you can just make up your own. So you're writing down. The first step is really just to write the different people that you are in relationship with, and then what is the type of relationship that you have. And you're going to include all the relationships of significance, including your family, your relatives, your friends, your colleagues, and your community. So I'll just give you a few moments to do that. And if you're watching the recording, you can pause this and do that. So I'm just going to check in with you, Carol and Simon. You ready to go on to the next step? Have you written down the relationships that you have and the name of the person and the relationships? And you can always add to it. You good to go on to the next step, Carol?
Yeah.
Okay. And Sandra, how about you?
I'm good.
Okay, good. So the second step is really kind of appraising the state of each relationship. And so we've got kind of 3 different ways that we can rate it, different keys that we're going to use. And I'll just kind of state what the keys are. So for each relationship, you're going to decide whether you're going to go through the list and you'll put either a heart, the letter T, or a smiley face. And I'll tell you what the code is. So the heart is if this relationship helps me grow, if it brings me more joy, love, and peace, if it energizes me, where you feel, uplifted, if it's supportive, supports your dreams and desires, makes it easy for you to be fully and authentically you, and that you have a healthy level of trust, respect, and love, then you can put a heart by it. Second, if it's more challenging, we're going to use the symbol T, which is kind of for needs to transform. So this would be if the relationship is hard, it's hard work, it's hard emotionally, it's hard physically, it takes more than it gives, like there's an imbalance in giving and receiving. If it's draining, if you feel down and depleted after spending time or talking with this person, if it's inconsistent and creates drama and distractions in your life, or if it's something that you talk about more, it's something that I talk about more than I talk about my own dreams. So like if you get caught up in the drama with this relationship, then you can put a T for meaning that you want the relationship to transform. And then the third symbol is just a smiley face where the relationship is fine. It's never draining or dramatic or destructive. It's give and receive. It's kind of neutral, not huge returns, but it's nice to have and brings you happiness when you see the person, but you don't feel like you want to grow or deepen the connection at this time. So it's just kind of a neutral, like it's okay, it's fine. So you can go through your list and you're just going to either put a smiley face, a T to transform, or a heart by that. That's the second step. Okay, so, and this one, you know, again, you can come back to this step, and we're going to kind of put this tool aside for now, and we're going to come back to it, and we're going to use another tool to help us kind of go a little bit deeper and just kind of understand these relationships. So this next tool that I want to talk about is the love rings. And again, if you have the handout, it would be good to pull it up. But if you don't have it, what I'm going to invite you to do is to just draw on a piece of paper a heart in the middle of the paper, and this represents. So you're just drawing in the middle like this one little heart. Going to look like that, but you start with a heart, and then we're going to make rings around it. And so the heart in the middle represents your connection with yourself and to the divine. So you can put your name right in the middle there, your name right in that little heart. And then what we're going to do, then around that heart, you're going to make other rings. And I'm going to tell you what those rings are. But what we're going to do is you're going to refer to your relationship inventory to see who you're in relationship with. And you're going to put each person in the love ring that best describes your current relationship with them. And it's not going to be the relationship that you wished you had or that you used to have, but the relationship you have right now, which is sometimes, I know it's kind of hard to figure out, because sometimes I have a lot of ideas about how I think a relationship be or how it should be. So you're going to have to do your best to see how present you can be. And this process is not really meant to judge them or to cut off love, but it's really about self-love. You want to remember that there is love in all of these rings. And what varies is that we have different levels of intimacy and vulnerability and connection. So what I'm going to do is tell you what the rings are, so you can understand the difference between them. So we've got, in the middle, you've got yourself, and then the next outer circle going right out of it is called the soul family. And so this is where you share your heart and soul. This is with people who you only have loving and respectful relationships and interactions. The soul family are people that see all of you, the weak and the strong and the full you, and they accept you as you are. And they lean in when things get hard or wonky. And they'll go deeper with you. So this is your soul family. And I know when I filled this one out, I didn't have a lot in my soul family. I wanted to, but I had to be real. And I was like, nope, I don't have a lot here. I've just got my husband and my cat. When I filled this out, that was my soul family. But anyway, it can be very revealing. So the next one after the soul family is called Affectionate Aficionados. And these are people that you share common interest or passion with. So the connection point is the interest or the passion, and the relationship usually doesn't expand outside of that. For instance, you could have a connection with yoga or with kids, or they could be a work friend, or it could be a business colleague. And so it's some area that you hook up with them. And you may try to expand out of this interest or passion, but the relationship doesn't really hold it. And often when the passion or interest goes away, so does the relationship. And people often mistake that these people for soul family because the connection point is so passionate for both people. So anyway, this is the group called Affectionate Aficionados. And so you just want to notice, what what relationships you want to put there. And then the third ring, we're going to call the happy bunch. And these are people that you share a good time with. These are people who are easy to hang out with, but you don't go too deep, just more lighter and socially, and you enjoy each other's company and you do fun things. Maybe you go to the dinner or a movie or games, but when you try and go deeper, the relationship just doesn't really go there. And sometimes many people have family that fit in here. You like to visit them, but you're not sharing your full life. And that's definitely true of my family. Like, I can go and have fun with them, but I'm not going to talk about my deepest soul desires or my spirituality with them, but I can have a good time. So we call this the happy bunch. And then the next circle after that is called the original class. And this is also people that you share a common history with. So maybe it might be your family too. It's like your connection point is your past experience. So maybe those that you went to college with or whatever, or you grew up in the same town, or your family. And you have an affinity to, and you appreciate these people and the time you spent together. But it's pretty much based on the past. It's also where longtime friends and family members that aren't in your soul family or happy bunch go. And you can talk to them a few times a year, and that's fine. Or you can pick up the phone every few years, and it's like you just talked yesterday. This is where people you love from your past but can't be in relationship with go. And to be here, these original class, they're people that they don't give you a trigger or a charge. They're just people, who like, you're okay when you see them, and they have some meaning, but they're not charging you. And so then there's, on this chart, there's also another circle that we call it Gratitude Island. Now, these are people who may have been in your life that you're choosing not to engage with now, but you're thankful for the relationships they've had, and you're just sending them off to this Gratitude Island, which is, it's all, the whole thing is all about love. So these, we want to send love to all of them, and we have different levels of love. And so what you want to do here is you really want to just go through that relationship inventory and see where your beloveds fit. And it can be, so I'll just give you time for that. I know when I did this for me, I was very surprised and almost wanting, kind of do battle with myself. Like, I wanted things to be a different way. So it was kind of revealing and kind of helpful in a way. Do you have any questions about any of the categories, any of the love rings, or does it make sense to both of you?
Gratitude Island, it's not on the on your love rings. Is that another? Oh, I see. It's that little island. Okay. Yeah, got it. Okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Could you repeat the original class again?
Yes, I can. So the original class is you share a common history. Your connection point is a past experience, like you grew up in the same town or family, or you went to college together, or you worked for the same company. And so you have an affinity and you have an appreciation for these people and the time you spent together, but you don't have a strong connection to who you are today. So it's like your focus is because of what you had in the past. You may still talk to them a few times a year, but there's not so much current interaction happening. So these are kind of longtime friends or family members that aren't in your soul family or in your happy bunch. They're people that you can talk to them a few times a year and it's fine. You can pick up the phone and you can, you know, you kind of can just go back to where you were.
So some of these aren't going to be in any of the rings, or no? Or are they all going to be in one of the rings?
Yeah, you should be able to place all of your relationships somewhere into the love rings, remembering that you've got the island of gratitude too. But yeah, you want to have everybody from your relationship inventory in one of your love rings. So you're just kind of defining the relationship in terms of this kind of criteria.
This is hard. I'm going to have to take time with that.
And that's okay. And you can take time. And yeah, I know, like, it's kind of just really getting into your body and your heart, and the mind says one thing. And so it's a process, and you can take as long as you want with it. And you can play around with it, and maybe, you know, and it's also a fluid thing. It's like, you know, if you did this 5 years ago, your love rings would have looked different than they do now. And people, and so it is fluid. You don't have to think of it as linear. Like if I put one person in my affection and aficionados today, it may shift and change. Yeah. So you want to think of it as a process, as growing. So just because, yeah, you can shift them around. And so anyway, I just wanted you to kind of understand the concept, and where I'm going with this is that once you do get it complete, your relationship inventory and your love rings complete, then what you want to do with yourself is you want to have what's called an honesty hearing. And I'm going to give you just 4 questions to write down that you're going to reflect on once you've completed the relationship inventory and the love rings. And the questions is just 1, what do you see or notice? Okay, and so you're just going to reflect on, you know, what comes up for you, you know, looking at your love rings, and you know, where there's a lot, where there's a little, just what you see or notice about your love rings. And then 2, you're going to ask yourself the question, who is in their right love ring? In other words, who do you want to keep the way it is? And so you're just, you know, noticing, okay, yeah, I like it the way it is right now, and I'd like to keep it. So who is in their right love ring? And then the opposite. Who is in the wrong love ring? And what's that about? So there may be people that, you know, need to shift and change. And then the last question that you might want to ask is, what rings are more empty than you like? In other words, so what do you want to grow? And so, again, this is not meant for us to beat ourselves up with. This is like meant to bring it to the surface, to just bring more attention to where we're putting out our energy in relationship to other people, and to see from our own inside what we want to grow, what we want to maintain, and what we want to transform, which that brings us to the last part of this exercise, which is really the step 5. Is then after you've reflected and you've had your honesty hearing, then what you're going to do is you're going to choose a self-empowered action for each relationship. And if you go back to that relationship chart where we've put on it the inventory, the person, the relationship, the love state with the smile or whatever, then there's something called a love act. And so what you're going to do is for each relationship, you're going to decide whether you want to grow it, and you can put a G, or whether you want to maintain it, an M, or a T for transforming it. So, you know, in the choice of growing a relationship, the empowered action would be that you're going to invest time and energy and heart with the intention to grow and bond deeper and stronger. And often the relationships that we have right now, we can grow stronger. So you want to find one or two with the potential for growth. And then for maintenance, these are relationships that you accept the relationship for what it is, and you're grateful for what it can give you, and you let it be what it is today without expecting more. And just you follow your inner wisdom guidance on what it's needed to maintain. So that would be an M. And then lastly, the transformation one, the T, is where you can no longer afford to keep these relationships as it is, and you're choosing to either release it or redesign them. So you can, you know, you don't have to do this right now. You want to kind of, you know, take some time with this, and then it will give you some clarity, and then give you some ideas on what you want to focus on. And I have to say that one of the results of me doing doing this relationship inventory is one of the friends that I realized I wanted to get closer to is actually Maria, who I'm staying in her house right now. But when I did this process, she was somebody who I realized I wanted to grow my relationship with. I remember after making that commitment of wanting to grow my relationship, it was really symbiotic, because she sometime after I made that commitment within myself, I hadn't even communicated it to her, she invited me to, early on, she wanted me to be at her birth. And so there was this whole process that we went through in terms of deepening our relationship around her pregnancy. And so I'm just kind of realizing the benefits of that consciousness within me, that I wanted to deepen that relationship, and where it's led me today, where, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, she called us up to come caretake the house. And yeah, so it's a really beautiful symbiotic relationship. So, any questions about the love rings and the relationship inventory?
Yeah, I have one.
I'm sorry, go on. Is that Carol? Oh, Sam, what's your question?
Carol, you. Carol? My question.
Okay, somehow it got all muffled up. I couldn't hear you. Can you say that again?
Can you hear me now?
I'm guessing that Sandra's talking for some reason who can't hear you very clearly. Let's have Carol go first, and then I wonder if you can chat to us. But we'll try in a minute. Carol, what did you want to say?
I had a question about the last question. It was something about what is empty. I didn't quite understand that question.
Oh, yeah. So the fourth question was, what rings are more empty than you like?
Okay.
So in terms of the love rings, when you have it there, it is, you know, does one ring not have as many people as you'd like? Or that's what it is, empty.
Okay, thank you.
And it could be too, it could be, you know, back to the metaphor about the garden. Is one too crowded? Is it too hard to maintain? Is it draining your energy because there are too many people here? So is one too full or is one too empty? It's really just reflecting, like just noticing, you know, what your love rings look like.
Okay.
Great. Good question. Sandra, do you want to try again?
Hello. You can't hear me.
I can hear you now, I think, but you're not talking. No, shucks, it's not working. Oy. Yeah, I don't know why we can't hear you. And I'm imagining you can't chat either. So I guess we'll just have to move on. And she went off, and I guess she'll come back on. Was it hard for you to hear her too, Carol?
Yeah, it was the only thing I could really hear was "you can't hear me."
Okay. All right. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Sorry, let me just get my notes here. Okay, let me just pull this up. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is a concept called the friend-intimacy triangle. And this comes from a woman named Shasta Nelson, and her book is called Friend-intimacy. And she wrote this book. She says, friend-intimacy is the experience of a meaningful friendship, a heartfelt, supportive closeness among friends. And the book is How to Deepen Friendships for Lifelong Health and Happiness. So she's basically come up with this, and I have a handout here, this triangle. And I thought that this might be just a good formula for you also to just kind of look at your relationships with. So basically, like I said, she says that the definition of friend-intimacy is a relationship where both people feel seen in a safe and satisfying way. I like that. And she says that there's 3 requirements of having a healthy relationship. And so, in order for a relationship to be satisfying, it must have a foundation of positivity. And so while positive feelings are necessary in all healthy relationships, they are paramount to our friendships, because these are the relationships we're entering by choice. We all want our friendships to add more joy, more peace, and support to our lives. So this positivity, if you look at the triangle, it's really kind of the foundation to relationships. And so you can kind of look at your relationship inventory, and you can kind of think about like which relationships you experience positivity and which ones you experience more negativity. And basically, when she talks about a relationship of 5 to 1, that you want to have at least 5 interactions of positivity or to 1 negativity. And I've found that this triangle and this her structure is a good way to look at not only friendships, but even all different, like even our circles, the women's circles that gather. You can look at the same thing, like how much positivity is going on, or like I could look at my past community and I can reflect on, take this triangle and I can think, you know, what happened there? So it's kind of a good way to reflect on when things don't work out. I can actually acknowledge that that was kind of one of the tipping points in the community, is that it went from a high level of positivity to a low level. All of a sudden judgment and criticism and stuff came in, and really I would say that the positivity level in that community went like this. So I can now look back on that and see how oh, that was a factor that really affected that when we had our big transformation, that the fact that some people went into fear and went into blame and shame, that affected me. And so perhaps you can look at your own relationships, past divorces and stuff, and see where there was a lack of positivity, and you can understand how, if that foundation is not there, what happens. Does that make sense about positivity, Carol? Yeah? Okay. So the second aspect of a requirement for a healthy relationship is really, for a relationship to be safe, we need consistency. And consistency is the action of repeating our time together, which in turn develops our trust as we begin to create and modify expectations of each other. So the more consistency we have, the more we feel like we can anticipate how a person will behave in different situations. And consistency is what gives our new friendships momentum to get to know each other. And over time, it's what builds a shared history and increases our commitment and feeling of support for each other. So these may, in some ways, these seem like so basic, so common, and yet, I don't know, it's like, I know that that's probably one of the hardest ingredients for in a relationship when we're all living such different lives and separate. To have consistency can be really difficult. I know in my relationships. I know, Carol, you got a question. I think Sandra joined us.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to make a comment that the consistency, yeah, all this stuff that you're bringing up, you know, you said it sounded common, but actually the awareness is usually not there. At least for me, I don't feel like I'm it's almost an evaluation form, right? And that brings awareness. So that's the goal there. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some kind of like, I think I have some kind of conditioning or imprint around friendships, and that it should just be easy. I think and that we don't, like, it should just flow. It's the same thing like with a love relationship, like why even dissect it? Like it should either be happening or not, but it's not true. I think that it's all about awareness and consciousness, and that relationships can grow. And so I think that what the structure does is it puts, I don't know, it helps my mind understand different asked of relationship. Yeah. I want to just check in with Sandra. Are you able to follow what's going on? And is there something you'd like to contribute now? Did the audio clear up now?
Well, I just went into can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just decided to go on to the video, even though I'm on audio. So I just want to go back and ask, could I ask me questions about the love rings?
Yes.
Okay, so 2 things about the love rings. Could you just explain again what the gratitude island is? Those are people that are no longer in your life?
Yeah, or they're people that you're in the process of kind of disengaging from. So they're people that are not serving you anymore. They're the people that you cut the cord to, or that you want to cut the cord to.
Okay.
Do is we send them off to Gratitude Island, which is like, then they're not in our core love rings. They served a purpose. They were a relationship that I learned from, I grew from, but right now they're not in those categories. They're not in my soul family. They're not in my happy bunch. They're not in my affectionate aficionados. They're not, that's where they are.
Okay. So I guess that connects to, I guess my second question is like all the categories seem positive, but what about people you don't have a positive relationship with? And I guess they're probably mostly on Gratitude Island.
Well, that's where you're in choice, and back to the relationship inventory where you get to decide whether you're going to, there's that category of you're growing it, you're maintaining it, or you're transforming it. So within the transforming it, you're either releasing it, and then they go to Gratitude Island, or you're changing it. So you get to be in choice about whether, you want to make them be an affectionate aficionado, or whether you want to just send them off to Gratitude Island and bless them on their way.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, cool. And did that answer your questions about the love rings?
Yes.
Okay, and were you able to listen to hear what we're talking about, the friend-intimacy, the triangle?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're 2/3 of the way through the triangle. We've talked about the positivity component and the consistency component. And, both are needed, to have a healthy relationship. If I'm just completely positive with somebody and I never see them, the relationship's not gonna take off. It's just gonna be kind of shallow. But the more that I can be positive and the more that I can have consistent experiences, the more that I'm gonna be able to grow that relationship. So the last part of the triangle and the other part of the structure, as Shasta Nelson describes it, is about vulnerability. And so in order for a relationship where both people feel seen, we must develop vulnerability. And as we spend more consistent time together, we also are incrementally revealing and sharing more of who we are with each other. And the more that we let someone see us, we're always increasing our positive responses, such as affirmations, acceptance, and empathy. Then the more loved we'll feel for who we are. So, and just some key points. Basically, all of our relationships start out at the bottom. It's just when you meet somebody new, that's what you're developing. You're developing, these 3 components. And basically, the appropriate and healthy vulnerability must correlate to the level of consistency that has been practiced. So it just kind of makes sense that the more you get together with somebody, they kind of go together, the consistency and the vulnerability. They impact one another. And most of our frustrations stem from unmet expectations and confusion about what level of relationship is being developed. So that's something that's just good to reflect on. I know it's kind of a profound statement. I'm going to say that again. Most frustrations stem from unmet expectations and confusion about what level of relationship is being developed. So, you know, that's just something to ponder, that when you are having conflicts or stucknesses or imbalances or charges or your buttons are getting pushed, a good place to kind of reflect on is, what are my expectations for this relationship? And so anyway, that's something good to reflect on. And you're also welcome to reflect on these questions for yourself. Which of the 3 requirements of healthy relationships is typically most challenging for me in my personal relationships? So just reflecting for yourself when you think about it, which is hardest for you? Is it harder to be positive? Is it more difficult to be consistent? Is it more difficult to be vulnerable? And just asking yourself, why do I think it's that way? And how can I more intentionally lead my circle in this area? How can I strengthen this? But it's good to know our weaknesses, and then you can strengthen it. Yeah, so anyway, these are just, you can take this triangle and kind of look at it now when you go back to your relationship inventory, and when you go back to your love rings, you can also take this as a way to help you decide which ones you want to grow, maintain, transform. It's just meant as like another lens to look through to help you get clearer about, you know, what you'd like to develop and how you want to go. All right. So anyone have any questions about this? You know, I'm just thinking, did both of you have a chance to, I'm just curious, did both of you have a chance to watch the second recording?
Yeah,
I have.
You did, Carol and Sandra?
I haven't, no.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. Because of one of the exercises I did in that, and I highly recommend, I'm not sure if it was called I think I called the bubble of love, where I took you on a guided meditation, so that where you were envisioning your future, and in that, the bubble of love, or your bubble of success, it does involve other people, like who, and you might want to go back to it and re-listen to it, but I'm just thinking about this aspect of birthing my next me. And so it's partly about who I am in relationship to myself, but then who I am in relationship to others. So I was just curious, you know, Carol, since do you remember doing that meditation? And
Yes.
Did you actually, I was encouraging, and another thing to do with that is to actually draw your bubble. It's a really beautiful exercise, but I'm just kind of presencing right now, as we're talking about our love for others, I'm imagining that in your bubble of love, that there may have been, you know, your significant part of some of these different aspects were showing up. Do you remember that part of it for yourself?
No.
No.
Sorry. No.
That's okay. But you might want to go back and re-listen
Okay.
to it. And now with these, I'm just thinking, now that I've kind of presented the Trinity of Love, the other love, and then you can go back to that. It might make more sense, or new things might come up now, because it's about envisioning where you want to be in 6 months. So here we are today, and you've done you're doing this analysis, this like microscope right now into where your relationships are. Well, I don't want to stay there. I want to go to the dream state, to the playful state of that we really have the power, each of us, to create the relationships that we long for, that we desire. And so whatever that might be for you. So I just encourage you might want to go back to that meditation. Yeah.
Thank you I appreciate these Zoom recordings, because it's not, if we were meeting, I wouldn't be able to re-experience it as well. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I'm just curious if either of you have any particular needs right now, any concerns that are coming up. We're almost at the end of our time together. I have an invitation to give to you guys, which I will do, and then I also have a beautiful poem I'd like to read in closing. But before we go there, I just want to see if there's anything else that's coming up for either you about birthing your next you. Is anything coming up that you'd like to share about that you're going through right now that you'd like to presence?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just wondering because I have headphones on. No, I'd just like to say that I found the material today very helpful and empowering, and so I feel good about it.
Right on.
Yeah,
Great.
and I feel, especially like the last thing you said, that we have the power to create the relationships that we want, and if we're not, then okay, well, what's that about? Which part of the triangle are we not putting our energy into, or we're blocked? So I found it really helpful, and I look forward to listening to the second one.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anything coming up for you, Carol?
It's quite the project.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to say I'm worth it.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and I just want to honor each and every one of you for like being on this path of self-love, this journey into birthing, your new you, and we're all doing it. I have to say, I can't really expect that any of us have just like come out of the canal after, I'm not even sure, I don't know, maybe it's been about a month or something since we started, or 6 weeks or whatever. But I think that I just honor each of you. And I know, for myself, I still feel like I'm still in a process. I'm not out. I don't know who I'm going to be. And I guess my challenge right now is to really be in the unknown. And that is like really kind of scary. Like, I like to know.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have it figured out, and I don't. And so I think that's part of like what's going on for me, is like really just embracing the unknown and just showing up with whatever is here right now, and trusting that.
Yeah, that's big help. Thank you. I totally get that I am constantly wanting to figure things out, to understand, and there's really no need.
Yeah, I really feel, since with all that's happened, the future's unknown. Like, what is Pune going to look like, Lower Pune, and who's going to be there, and what places are going to be there. And even though I'm an introvert and I don't have that many, so many friendships, I still feel a big loss, because it's like so many people I know, but they're all kind of spread everywhere now.
Yeah, and it's amazing how, yeah, I'm just noticing this thing about identity, you know, whether my identity is partly connected to where I live and to what I do and to who I see. And yet, in reality, my identity, it's really an intrinsic thing. I just see how I get so pulled outside and how, yeah, it's just interesting. I'm just having to really come back to my breath, to each moment. It's really like a meditation of like coming back in, you know, back to what I read in the beginning about home being on the inside, you know, and I have so much illusion about who I am on the outside, but it's really, when it comes down to it, it's really not that important. I think what's most important that I'm getting right now is just being in the moment, being truthful to what's going on, and that I'm really, really getting the message that my body doesn't lie. It's like, it's this feeling inside that is my connection to source, that is my connection to self, that's guiding me. And I have that wherever I am, you know?
Yeah.
And that's my safety.
Yeah.
That home, that identity within is the thing that keeps me feeling safe and happy, comfortable. The world changes, but that doesn't.
Right. So, what I know, the process that I'm in right now is that I am going to be offering a continuation program that I'm just going to plant a little bit a seed right here, and it's partly I've been, you know, in this path of self-love for. Well, actually, for about 10 years since I first met Christina Rilo, and the first thing that I've been doing. But for the last 2 years, I've been focused on becoming certified as a Path of Self-Love teacher guide. And so right now in my program, I have the opportunity to go deep with a minimum of two people. I'm going to take 2 women through what I'm going to call the Summer of Self-Love. And it's going to be a program where it's going to be individual. It's going to be one-on-one, and it's going to be a 4-month program where I'm going to meet individually with one beloved, and it'll be 2 times a month. So there'll be 8 different calls, and it will be over Zoom, and it'll be recorded, and there'll be different practices and focuses to do during that. And then there'll also be kind of like a strategic call and a foundational call. So they're going to be 10 calls total. So this is going to be my new offering, and I'm just calling it the Summer of Self-Love. And I just wanted to plant the seed if it's something that, you know, either of you or anyone on the call wants to go deeper into. If you like this work, if you're really wanting to strengthen your self-love, or maybe your heart and soul's desires, your dreams for the future, and you want somebody to guide you through a process, I'm here for that. And I'll send you out information about what it's going to look like. But basically, it's going to start in June. So I wanted to plant the seed. If anyone wants to get on that, and I'll send you an invitation about it in the next few days. Yeah. So I wanted to let you know that that's going to be my next offering.
Terrific.
So I'm curious, it's an individual call, so is there some flexibility on the timing then? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's going to be very structured, to your needs. And and it's one-on-one, so we'll create the timing that works best for you. But it will be meeting twice a month. For 4 months, for June, July, August, and September. And so there'll be 8 calls and then 2 additional calls just to set it up is how it's going to be. So total of 10 calls, but it will all be structured for one-on-one to meet the person's needs. All right. Well, I have just a poem that I thought would be really fun to end with. And so maybe you'd like to just close your eyes and receive this. Maybe put your hand on your heart and belly. And yeah, this poem is called Today I Choose Myself. And it's written by Sheila Sophia McLeod. And so it's called Today I Choose Myself. I choose to be the queen of my own domain, to name myself as the one who governs my life. And you're welcome, if you're listening to the recording, to tap while I'm saying this, to really kind of let this into your body, because I think these are all, the words in this poem are basically affirmations that I think all of you would like to take into your body. So feel like you can bring that into your being as you listen to me, and you can tap to bring it into. I shall not wait for the approval of others in order to act on my own behalf and inner knowings. I choose to listen to this great heart within me, to honor what it wants, needs, and longs for. I shall no longer allow the sacred parts of myself to be fragmented and isolated and hidden. I choose to take up space in this universe and its call, to inhabit and uplift this vessel of self, which is my temple. I shall not keep my gifts to myself any longer, or allow my fear to keep me from my greatness. I choose to be as wonderful as I truly am, to explore just who I might be after all these years. I shall not judge myself for where I have not journeyed, or the ways that I have been untrue. I choose to forgive myself and any of the old stories, to make space for the new stories, legends to emerge. I shall not forsake my dreamings and visionings or allow others' ideas to crowd my own. I will think my own thoughts. I choose to fall in love with who I am, as I am today, to embrace the messy and the marvelous in me. I shall not diminish my light one day longer. I am releasing the shadows right this very moment. I choose to see you and to be seen by you too, to find and dance with those who are ready to choose. I choose to see myself as whole, holy, worthy, so much more than enough. I choose to be glorious. Being glorious is not the default. It is a choice. And today I choose myself. Aho.
Aho. Thank you.
All right, so I send you off with lots of love and blessings, and it's really been a pleasure having all of you in this container for these last few weeks. And yeah, I will send you that poem in an email so you can have it, because I think it kind of sums up what we're all doing together. All right, blessings to you. Have a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing each of you in person and hugging you.
Thank you.
All right. Lots of love.
Aloha.
Right.
Aloha.
Aloha. Mm. Ah.